Now, most of the universe is a dangerous vacuum that's either scorching hot or ice cold, and with no air to breathe, we would die in seconds. In fact, 99.999 ad nauseum percent of the universe is not suitable for human life. And it took us billions of years to evolve and adapt to this narrow corner of it. So to say that the universe is fine-tuned for life is like saying that the Sydney Opera House was fine-tuned for the speck of mold growing on the crumb of cheese that fell from a lady's pocket 5 minutes ago. Allow me.
So what do you think here, Dr. Strauss? This is probably his first critique in this video, in the fine-tuning argument, where he talks about how like the universe is just lifeless for the most part. So what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is a common misconception that if much of the universe can't support life, then in fact the universe isn't fine-tuned for life. But it's making so many assumptions. For one, it's making an assumption that it understands that if there is supposed to be life, let's say the universe is designed for life, then that the rest of the universe has no function. But that's just not true. In order to get a planet with life on it, you basically need the rest of the universe. You need to have the right number of supernovas exploding in the right range around a planet so that you can create the heavy elements needed. You need the right large-scale structure of the universe, actually. The analogy I give is that I grew up watching humans go to the moon. And they built the largest rocket ever built by humans, the most powerful one, the Saturn V rocket. And out of that whole giant rocket that was huge, number of stories tall, there was a space about the size of a small car that could support life. And the only space in that whole rocket that could support life was a little tiny piece at the very top. So are you saying the whole Saturn V rocket is not designed for life because only a tiny part can support life? Of course not. The rest all has a function, and the rest is actually necessary. And when you understand what it takes to create a single planet that can support life and start to look into the parameters of the necessary heavy elements, the necessary radiation and lack of radiation and mass density of the universe, you realize that the rest needs to be there or you can't have a single planet. And this is just a really naive statement that the universe is not designed for life because only a small part of it is. It's like saying the Saturn V isn't designed for life because only a small part of it can support life. And again, you don't have to look much into the literature to realize this.
Yeah, it's super helpful. And there's a quote that someone said a while ago. I don't know where I heard it the first time, but it says something just like the lines of what you were saying here, Dr. Strauss, where it's like, sure, like 99.99% of the universe maybe doesn't contain life, but the universe is 100% life permitting, which has some weight to the fine-tuning argument. So, yeah.
Yeah, and again, he's assuming that he understands the purpose of whoever designed the universe. That would, again, be like looking at a rocket ship that has a small part that can support life and say, well, their purpose must have been life, so the whole thing must have to support life. It's just a crazy argument, and it doesn't understand what it takes to create a planet like the Earth. If you wanted to start with the laws of physics that we have, and you wanted to create a single planet like the Earth, you have to have the right mass density and the right expansion rate, and this is about the smallest universe you can make and create a single planet with life. It's just like the Saturn V was the smallest rocket you could make and send people to the moon. So it's just a totally argument made out of like human reasoning without any scientific understanding at all.
So are you saying that, because this is really interesting, like if we want like this knowable natural order where we have these laws unfolding, to have a planet kind of like ours that can contain like life such as ourselves, we're going to need this really big universe? Is that kind of what you're getting at here, Dr. Strauss?
Absolutely. So in order to have a planet like ours, you have to have the right mass density. We'll talk about that later. And you have to have the right expansion rate of the universe. And it takes about 9 billion years to create a planet like the Earth, because when Big Bang started, there was only hydrogen and helium. There were no heavy elements. And stars have a life cycle. So the early stars were just hydrogen and helium. They had to die. And as they died, they create heavy elements. And those heavy elements that were the debris from the dying first generation of stars had to form a second generation of stars. And those stars still didn't have enough heavy elements to create a planet like the Earth. Though some of those stars had to die and spew off their debris into the universe. And then That debris from the second generation of stars finally has enough iron and silicon and oxygen and carbon to create a planet like the Earth. So given the laws of physics as we know, it takes 9 billion years from a Big Bang to create a planet like the Earth. Since the universe is expanding at the perfect expansion rate over those 9 billion years, and since 9 billion years is the shortest amount of time it can take to make a single planet like the Earth, this is the smallest universe you could have and make a single planet like the Earth. And so again, the idea that if there was a designer, all of the universe would be life permitting, well, would have the ability to support life, is just a total misunderstanding of the evolution of the universe, the expansion rate, what it takes to create the heavy elements in the universe, the time it takes, and the necessary ingredients. It's just very naive. But it's really commonly, cool. So what I see when I watch Holy Kool-Aid is he's basically repeating things that I hear all the time by atheists who haven't done the hard work of studying what's really necessary to create the conditions. They're just spouting off refutations based on kind of like an intuition that isn't based in science at all.